Welcome to Define Your Path with DocV, bringing you real talk with global thought leaders to inspire hearts and minds for sustainable breakthroughs and profitability for your life and business. Here's your host, DocV.
Hi, I'm Dr. Virginia LeBlanc, also known as DocV, the Pivot Maestro. Welcome to the Define Your Path podcast for thought leaders, change agents, purposed entrepreneurs, and legacy builders. We are all about transforming perspectives, as well as inspiring and motivating you to think without a box to define your path by exposing you to global thought leaders across industries on how they successfully define their path in life and business. Define Your Path is all about truth, transparency, and love to help you navigate the waters of your life and put you back in business. Today's spotlight is with the incomparable Cathleen, Elle. She is phenomenal. Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Kathleen is a transformational speaker, certified intuitive success coach, master healer, suicide loss expert, author, and podcast co-host. By assisting parents that are ready to rise from the ashes of loss, she revolutionizes lives. Her award-winning book, Shattered Together, A Mother's Journey from Grief to Belief. Equal parts inspirational memoir and practical guide for those struggling with loss of any kind, is an award-winning #1 international bestseller on Amazon. Gave Amazon a new name. Kathleen, welcome to the show. How are you, sister?
Oh, great. Thank you, Doc V. It's so good to see you again.
Yes. We look forward to hearing your story of how you faced your fears to love the skin you're in and pivot into pursuing your passion and soul purpose. In our podcast, Kathleen, we love to keep it simple. So here are 2 questions for you. How have you defined your path? And how do you want to help others define theirs?
Oh, thank you so much, Doc V. How do I define my path? Well, I'd like to just bring it all around to like a strawberry rhubarb pie. There's been all kinds of bitter in it and all kinds of sweet. And I tend to focus on the sweet in my life. And no matter what the bitter experience has been, it is the catalyst to the sweetness in my life. What I mean by that is that as a child, I was, my birth father was an abusive alcoholic. We lived in a very fairly low income environment. There was sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And so early on, I remember feeling and thinking, I heard this voice saying, there's got to be something more to life than this. And so that was my driving factor of of pursuing and doing and going further and further in my life. So that brought me to being a legislator, a business owner, a lobbyist. I worked for the governor. And so I had a pretty successful political career for most of my life. And with that, I became a single parent when my children were 5 and 6 years old. It was Ashley and Logan. And in 2010, I was in a board meeting where I was the executive of an association, the largest commercial construction association. And we were just determining whether the association was going to move forward with me or without me, because I was presenting how we were going to succeed in the association. And that was my choice. I knew it was going to be a big day, but I didn't realize how big of a day it was going to be. As I was sitting there in the board meeting, I had a colleague of mine come by, pull me out of the meeting and tell me that my son had taken his life at the age of 19.
Oh my God.
So Logan took his life when he was angry at me, and he actually wrote a note asking me to not attend a service.
Oh my God.
So my life was shattered when I found out about my son's transition, his suicide. However, a month later, when I found out about the note, because I didn't know the note existed, my life shattered even more. So the path in which I became successful and where I am today is that I was laying on my son's grave, begging, wishing, pleading, whoever, whatever took my son, please take me too. I also wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to exist. And then I heard this voice, and it wasn't a loud voice. It was just a voice of thought. If this happened in your life, then you're meant to do something with it. Now do it. So it was at that moment my life changed again, where I started to step into my healing journey. I started to work through the pain and the suffering that I was causing myself. I was stuck in blame and guilt and shame and all kinds of if I had only done this, or if only, maybe my son would be here. So there was all kinds of judgment on myself. And as I started to progress through my healing journey, I knew eventually that I had to step into another healing journey. So 5 years after my son's transition, I was sitting with my cognitive thought therapist and said, if I'm doing all the right things, and I'm still feeling as if I want to die, like this world isn't working for me right now. And so we went through this whole test, and we determined that I was experiencing post-traumatic stress. Now, the post-traumatic stress wasn't from my son's transition. It was actually from the trauma that I experienced as a child that I didn't really deal with. And so the point of telling you all of that is that the need to step into your pain eliminates the suffering we put ourselves through.
Wow.
So the suffering I was subjecting myself to caused physical pain, emotional pain, personal relationship pain, all kinds of pain in my life. So I continued to repeat a pattern that I didn't even know that I was in. And so then I ultimately stepped into a personal development program with Jack Canfield. And that's where I was introduced to a healing modality called RIM, Regenerating Images and Memory. And that is what I became a master in, because this healing modality started a deeper healing journey for me, where I went into my body and found the limiting beliefs, the blocks, and the patterns that had been created from early on in this lifetime and other lifetimes, and recreated stories around that to have actually more truth. So as you continue to grow, or as I continued to grow and step into my journey, I realized that, the pain that I've experienced has also been the beautiful gift that I get to be with my clients. Just like Shattered Together, A Mother's Journey from Grief to Belief, in the book talks about different practices. It gives you different opportunities with stories attached to it on how you can actually start to step into honoring yourself in order to honor others. So it's a journey. Healing is a journey. And that's how I got to where I am today, is that serving people parents who have lost a child to suicide is my mission. It touches employees, it touches coworkers, it touches CEOs, it touches all of us. And ultimately, we don't talk about it because we become uncomfortable with that. And it causes more pain and more grief and more challenge. So today I live a life of joy and peace and connection and compassion. And I love every minute of my day, because now I see that I don't need to be fixed. No one else needs to be fixed.
Right.
That I am loved, I am cared for, and I get to be the inspiration to other parents who have experienced something that I've experienced.
Oh, Kathleen, that is absolutely beautiful. From our pain comes passion, purpose, perspective. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want you to elaborate a little bit more later. But let's get to the second question. How do you want to help others define their path? You've kind of alluded to that, but what specifically are you doing? So let me later.
So specifically, parents that come to me or that are attracted to me are those who actually want to redefine their life from the pain that they're in. And yet they don't know how. They know there's something bigger and more important that's coming from the trauma that they've experienced. And yet they're still stuck in the self-blame, the judgment, the guilt, and the challenges that they're in. So what I do is I get to be their guide. I get to facilitate their path, their journey for their discovery of what they've experienced. I do that through one-on-one healing, coaching, what I call is a spiritual spa session. And we get to work together to see what comes up. I partner with the divine. I'm not fearful of speaking that I am a vessel in which I get to channel information, I get to channel energy, and I get to share with others a space of light. So I'm not holding space. I am just sharing my light. So it's a very different approach than a lot of people have. For me, it's not about me holding space for someone else because it's not my job. My job is to be the light, to be the example, and to hold people in the compassion that they deserve, and also help them see that they have the ability to move through their challenges. I also have group programs and have these amazing retreats. I have a retreat coming up in October for parents who have lost a child to suicide. And I'm partnering with a shaman and a crystal healer that is working with me. And the two of us will help parents see that you can create a new relationship with your loved one. So your loved one's never really gone. While their physical presence is no longer here, their energetic presence is all around us. Energetically, the energy never dies. We know that through science, energy never dies. It's how do we start to communicate differently with that energy? And so I help parents actually connect on a deeper level with their children, those who have transitioned. And again, you'll see that I say transitioned instead of died because they don't die. Their body no longer is here.
That's Kathleen, that is so good. I don't even know where to start there. There was so much in what you just said. Thank you so much for letting people know how you might be able to help them and reach to them and just help them in where they are right now in their circumstance. But I love what you said about not holding space as your job, your responsibility, but being the light. So many are afraid of the light and walking in the light and allowing their light to shine. So can you speak a little bit more just about that, the difference between your light shining and holding space?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So holding space is almost like you carrying or me carrying another person. Now, this is all from my perspective and the learnings and the teachings that I've experienced through many modalities. And what I have come to realize through my own journey is that I have the power. You have the power. We all have the power because we're all divine light. And we are often seeking on the outside a fix when really on the inside, we don't need the fix. What I mean by that is we're always seeking for another person to fix us or another job. Or if you hit a certain threshold, you're like, okay, I'm not happy here, so I need to even achieve more. So we hide behind addictions, behind overworking, over-exercising. We hide behind things, so masks, basically. So we become multiple masks. So I help people remove their masks so they can find their own light. Oftentimes their lights are so dimmed because of their experiences and their fear to step into the pain, so where they can feel the purpose from that. And when we avoid the pain, we become shackled to the pain. We end up suffering. Yes. And science shows that their physical ailments and emotional ailments are directly related to limiting beliefs, blocks, and patterns that are in your body that we haven't faced. So that is my job, is to help them find their own light by being the light.
Ah, that's beautiful. You literally help them love the skin that they're in. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So let's back up to the first question, where you were sharing your discovery that you had been walking around with post-traumatic stress disorder for your entire life, from childhood. So many people think that PTSD is just a sign or relegated to folks who are directly involved in combat, military or police or something like that. And we don't realize that life, can give us a syndrome because of the pains, the things we face, the experiences that go unreconciled until we have that revelation so that we can reconcile it to then move into our renaissance, our rebirth, our redefinition. Can you speak a little bit more just about that, post-traumatic stress within just the walk of life?
Absolutely. When we're from 0 to 8 years old, now some people say 6 and some people say 7, but for me, I believe it's 0 to 8 years old. We are programmed to respond to the rest of our life. And what I mean by that is the experience that we have in our childhood is how we react to the world. If we're not feeling safe, if there's a certain pattern where you become the fighter, the flight, the person who fights, or the one that freezes, or the one that tries to fix it all, become the caretaker, you create a particular way that you respond to life. So if you believe, so there was an experience that I had when I was a child where my birth father was shooting at us. He came home drunk. There was a big fight. He says he's going to end it. And so my mom brought my sister and I into the bathroom, closed the door. She put my sister, because she was older, into the bathtub with her, and she put me between the toilet and the wall. Now, I know that may be TMI, but the fact is she separated me from her, but not because she didn't care. But the story that was created at that moment is that I'm alone, I'm abandoned, I'm unlovable. What about me? It created this pattern of like, everyone else, you're taking care of my sister, but not me, which is not true at all. But that's the story that was created. That story created a pattern in my life of continuing to believe that I was unworthy of love. And so I kept putting myself in situations where I kept anchoring in my unworthiness of love. And even if I read self-help books, I exercised, I ate well, even with all of that, my body had the program. So my subconscious was leading my being. And your subconscious is that program within your body. And your subconscious acts, I think it's like 10 times, and please don't quote me on that, but it's multiple times faster than your conscious. Conscious is the knowing, is your believing, is the knowing that you are the light. So it is the higher self of you. And so we have an opportunity, which is the healing modality that I use, the regenerating images and memory. We have an opportunity to go back into our body and recreate a new story around events that programmed us for life. And so your body creates a new memory based on new information. So you become aware of new things that you didn't know of. And now to look back, and I'm like, my mom did the best that she could. My dad did the best he could. They did the best they could with what they knew in the moment, with what they were given. And so, hurt people. And if you don't walk through those hurt feelings, you end up repeating and really anchoring in the belief of unworthiness, of having to carry other people. There are all kinds of programs that we are that's put into our bodies that we become the robot to, almost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I talk a lot just about sociocultural conditioning based on our experiences and how it programs our subconscious. And until we have an experience, in your case, the loss of your son, that literally puts us into that mode where we have to decide if we are going to fight or flee, we stay in that same programming, and unbeknownst to us, because it's just a part of the construct of life, the social constructs and how we develop in life, our educational process, and just keeping us in that box, or just barely outside of it. So it sounds like that the key is to face your fears, and I like to say, when you face your fears, then you embrace them and they will become your ally. And it sounds like that's exactly what was the case for you. and that actually empowered you, and took you out of that darkness and into the light so that you can shine your light. Is that pretty much?
That's true. When we're facing our fears, what I teach my clients and the clients that I work with is that be curious about the events that are happening in your life versus being attached to what you believe to be true. Because truth is constantly changing, just like the cells in our body are constantly changing. We have the opportunity to create new awarenesses. So be curious about what's happening in your life instead of being attached to what we believe we're being punished for or not.
That was powerful. That was so powerful, sis. So you also, talked about just how, folks recreating your story. A lot of people do not believe that they can redefine their lives. I don't like to say recreate as if there's something wrong with us. As you said, there's nothing wrong with us. We just have to discover how to love the skin we're in, right? So, you have held so many titles in your life, worked in different areas within the political arena and outside of. Can you speak a little bit of how you just embraced change, how you defined your path to get to where you are now? We've heard your story and kind of what pushed you to your sole purpose that you're now following. But, just the fear people have of leaving the career that they're in, or, staying on this path that someone put them on or told them they would be good at, or that they think that is what they should be doing, as opposed to exploring and seeking their purpose.
I believe that I have always been intuitively responding to life. There are times that I ignored that intuition, but the fact is I had come at my career, my professional life, from a place of fear. And so wherever I achieved something, that was never enough. I had to continue to achieve in order to prove my worth. So what I have done is shift that from this traumatic experience that I had in my life, from this real shattering, breaking down every wall I ever had, and started to rebuild the truth of what of the connection that we have. I'm trying to put this all, it's a journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey. So everything that I've learned in the past has been the skills and the tools that I get to use today from my conscious self, my aligned self. So all of the things that I've ever done helped me be the person I am today. So I never judge what I went through. It's led me to where I am. And I get to use those same tools from the aligned place, which expands the light even more.
Oh, that was so good. And exactly where I wanted to go, because most people don't process. We're just going through life in an unconscious state, in a routine, a rinse and repeat. But until that life event happens, where you're faced to where you have to be still and you have to process what has happened and start to work on the person and really think through the meaning of life and, why are we here and so on and so forth. That's when you start flipping the switch into the conscious and becoming the captain of your ship. You've probably heard of that, the captain and the ship, the shipmates. So I think a lot of people are walking blindly in life under false senses of security, feeling unhappy or unfulfilled, just fulfilling roles that we play in life. And then when something traumatic happens, that's when the switch is flipped. And they began to explore life and seek other perspectives and understand truth. And I love what you said about truth changing. A lot of people get stuck there on that. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. Truth changes constantly. The more you become aware, the more truth there is to something that you find a new truth. So the truth was true in the one moment for you, where your truth may be one thing and my truth may be another. 2 minutes down the road, we may have this new awareness and both of us are like, oh my goodness, there's something even more. So we have a new truth. So it doesn't mean the old truth is not true. It just means that you have additional information. And, I just want to say that when you have a life experience or a life event that is the catalyst to breaking you or making you, I will say that that life, you can't continue to live the life you've been living. Know that you're not living your highest and best. You know that you're not serving in the best way possible. You just know it. You don't know how you can change it, but you just know that this cannot be what life is about. There's got to be something more. That's when you connect. That's when you're open enough so where you can actually connect to creating new truths.
And on that note, Kathleen, which left me with cold chills all over my body, so poignant and such an accurate point. We are going to wrap truly divine downloads in our episode. I would like to thank you so much for being our spotlight today. Audience, I want you to be sure to follow Cathleen, Elle on social media. Kathleen, please tell our audience how to connect with you.
So this Kathleen Elle Inspires, and Parents Touched by Suicide is another for Instagram and Facebook. And then, of course, just go to my Facebook page at kathleenelle.com, Facebook, my website at kathleenelle.com, and you can find everything that you need right there.
Awesome. And you all will also be able to connect to Kathleen Elle's, read her full bio and connect with her on our Define Your Path podcast platform. So be sure to check it out as well as past episodes, and be sure to visit our virtual home to see what we're up to at definingpaths.online. And we thank you so much for listening to our show today. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, DocV. It truly is a pleasure to be here.
And we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to Define Your Path with DocV. To learn how to see with true vision and define your path, visit definingpaths.online/true-vision.